Well, hello.
Hello, how's everybody?
Well, we are here again. I am Emily.
And this is Kevin.
And we're still trying to come up with a name for what it is that we're trying to do here. But it is, I think we're settling on something, but I don't know.
I think we're leaning towards Run to the Cruise. Since we're probably going to do some videos about cruising and maybe some about running. So that seems to make some sense.
I think that's probably what we're going to wind up doing. So you're actually on a nightly walk with us. It is Saturday, June 4th. We are approximately how many days till we...
We're leaving in about 12, 13 days. So we're leaving on Friday the 17th. So
yeah, so we're kind of in the end game now. Gratuitous Marvel reference.
right.
Yes.
So we know we had said we were going to check back in when we took our test, but it turns out a couple things that popped up unexpectedly. One not so much unexpectedly, the other completely unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
We did one thing when you're going to Europe, you got to be careful of, depending on what country you're going to, you have to fill out what's called a passenger locator form. So you have to
PLF.
do this, yeah, PLF. You have to do this 3 days prior, at least 3 days prior to when you take off and arrive in the country you're going. And our destination is Spain, which is one of a few countries that does require it. So one thing we've done over the last week or so is filled out the form. You have to give some basic information about your flight and where you're going to be. And then 3 days before, they'll send you an email with a QR code, which you have to show when you get to Spain. Otherwise, you can't get into the country. So that's a big deal. You have to actually get that done. We had to do the same thing when we went to Greece last year.
So let's be clear though. Last year to Greece was a little bit more dramatic. We were getting close to going and there was something going on where our boat was not going to be able to land or dock, excuse me, you don't land on a cruise ship, dock in a port in Turkey. So at one point in time, we got a notification that we were going to have to surrender our passports in order to be able to get on the cruise ships. We're going to take a seat over here by the pond in our neighborhood. We need a little relaxation while we're doing this, so we're going to take a seat. So it was a little more dramatic. At one point in time, I actually wound up contacting the State Department. I know, you're like drama central. But it was very odd for me to have something about... surrendering your passport. So it didn't seem right. Turns out we did not have to do that.
Yeah, they just ended up scanning it.
So don't ever be afraid with this stuff to ask questions. You catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar. So yes, I wound up calling the State Department. They hooked me up with somebody from Greece last year and it wound up being just fine. But if you just ask questions and you just, are very honest, they'll do that for you. But that was the PLF last year was a lot more dramatic than this year. We were expecting it.
You just need to be prepared. Always read what the country you're going to requires. With the cruise, it could be a little different because you could be going to multiple countries. Mm-hmm. Most of the countries in Europe, I don't think require that now, but Spain still does. So, mm-hmm. And if you aren't proactive with it, you won't be able to get into the country.
It's true. So, yes, we are, just to kind of give you a status update, as I said before in the last video, am a teacher, and this is the end of our school year. Hello, neighbor.
Hello.
That's okay. That's all right. You're totally fine. Got one of our awesome neighbors just coming by saying, hey, we are at the end of the school year. I know you've had a lot of stuff going on with work. We just actually had graduation for our seniors on Thursday. It's just a lot in our personal lives. We have a lot of stuff going on right now that we've been dealing with, and it's been rather rough. So we're definitely looking forward to going on this cruise. We actually had a funeral we went to yesterday too, which was kind of sad. But after we got home from the funeral and all the other stuff that was going on, we got a notification. So something popped up, as Kevin said, and Kevin, do you want to explain this? Because I'm still kind of like dealing with it.
So, and this, may end up being kind of similar to the passport thing, but from what we dealt with last year, where at first we couldn't get a good answer. But we got an email that basically said that what Norwegian had told us before and what their policy had been before when leaving the boat, as most of you probably would know at this time in 2022, to get back in the United States, you need a test from any foreign country 24 hours or at least one day prior to coming back. And we had called them earlier when we booked the cruise, and they said, yeah, just like every other cruise, they do it the day before. They'd arrange it. But we got an email yesterday, and this is now 14 days beforehand, saying, oh, nope, we're not doing that anymore. You basically have two options. One is they gave us this URL, which basically was just a map of testing facilities in Barcelona where we're coming back from, which doesn't do us much good because we have a transport. Or they said, okay, there may be limited supply of telehealth tests that you can, we assume, purchase on board, which also is a little bit scary because one, you're using the internet, and that might be spotty, and then two, of course, you're paying for something that you weren't expecting to pay. You never know if there's problems. So that is ongoing. I think our plan is actually to go ahead and get a telehealth one that's 24/7 that you can kind of schedule any appointment, purchase it here through, I think, Quest Diagnostics. It's like $70. We can control the cost. And then when we're at the port the day before Barcelona, which is Palma, go ahead. There apparently is pretty good Wi-Fi in the terminal, and take the tests actually in the terminal. Not ideal at all, and still could be fraught with problems, but that was definitely a big change, and it didn't make either of us feel good, but hopefully we have a plan.
No.
And then again, hopefully there'll be some further guidance. We've been looking around the internet to see if there's been anybody else concerned about this, because I could easily see a scenario where, oh well, the Wi-Fi kicked out because you're in a foreign country, and you couldn't finish the test.
Then you don't get home.
Yeah, so that it's still even a little bit scary. So maybe it's kind of like the passport situation from last year, and it'll be more clear as time goes on. We've tried to call like Norwegian 3 to 4
Yes.
times, and it's kind of like the passport situation from last year where they just kind of read it back to you,
Yes.
the guidance, and they're not very much help. So hopefully that'll change over time.
Yes. So I think in this scenario, with the amount of emotion that we've all been going through in our lives, when this hit yesterday after an extremely long day of traveling back and forth to Baltimore, so for us that's like well over an hour. We had to make a pit stop on the way home on this trip too. So it just made the day very long, very sad. But when we got this email, first instinct was, oh boy, now what? What we had been expecting, as Kevin said, I think, last year when we were in Greece, it was very, very simple. You had an assigned time, you went up, they had staff on duty to give you a test, and it was all included because they were happy to help you to make your cruise painless. This was, you're going to be on a cruise ship, and
Yeah, now
you're
you're
responsible
yeah.
to get a test so you can go home. And oh, by the way, here's a website, and maybe you don't speak the language very well, but just find your way around Barcelona. You'll make it happen to get yourselves home. And as Kevin mentioned, when he said that we had a transport, we have no time at all to go and do that, because we get off the cruise ship onto a transport back to the airport in Barcelona, where we have less than 2 hours to get through security, everything, in order to get to our plane to fly home. So we don't have the option really of running around Barcelona to do this.
And they do test at the airport, but again, that requires a reservation for an exact time, and then
Can cost up to 400 euros from what we saw.
And it has a 2-hour delay, so you can't even check in between that. So that's kind of out as well. So
Right.
I mean, even if you look at the Norwegian frequently asked questions, it still says their old policy, which it says they'll provide that for you. So I wouldn't even mind, I mean, paying for a test on the boat. I mean, it'd be nice to know that at the time of booking. But this is much worse, because you're kind of like, okay, when am I actually going to get home? So hopefully, like we said, it'll kind of be like that passport situation, and there'll be more clear guidance as other people maybe call in and say, hey, this doesn't seem right.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think the scenario, and we found this out, and I apologize, we just got a gimbal here, and it's on a stick, obviously, as you can tell. So I'm trying to get it to not bounce. So I apologize if the viewing quality isn't 100%. But I think the information is really, really important to share right now. Traveling right now in general, as probably most anybody that's watching this knows, is not 100% easy. You really have to work for it. And as one of my favorites, Molly from allears.net, likes to tell everybody, you got to pack your patient pants. Like I said, we spent pretty much 45 minutes minimal, both of us, trying to get through to Norwegian to find anybody yesterday that could give us some answers. And literally all they did was read back the email that we got. Nobody knows what's going on. We packed our patient pants. We sent an email to get it clarified through Norwegian,
Yeah.
but then we went through our detective work and what could we do. And we both kind of arrived on it. I think I found the Quest Diagnostics, but we both kind of arrived on purchasing these telehealth testing kits to get home. If nothing else, it's $70 for 2 tests, which we're going to clarify on Monday before we purchase them, that isn't 2 tests for the same person. It's 2 tests, meaning he can take one and I can take one. And it's peace of mind, because if the ship winds up having these things for free, because enough of us are like, oh no, what the heck are you doing? Then fine, then we have 2 extra tests sitting around the house, and it's $70 of security for us. But I just think that when you deal with this, you have to understand that even when times are tough, like a lot of the stuff that we're going through right now, you just have to pack your patience and really have faith that things are going to work out, but do your homework as well.
Yeah, most definitely. And it seems like what they were going to provide on the boat is the same thing as what we do on our own. So we almost have to pretend like, okay, you're traveling not on a cruise, and what would you do then? But hopefully that'll work out. And we need to also make sure they can get the test to us before we leave, because as many of you know, the postal mail situation is still pretty slow. So even if we order it on Monday, we want to make sure we get it by the following Friday, and hopefully that would be the case. There are, like for the ones that the U.S. government gave you, you can do, there are some providers that just could use those tests, but they're not 24/7, so we really want one that was 24/7 and had a 15-minute turnaround, and so we're willing to pay a couple extra bucks to do that for sure, for peace of mind.
Yeah.
But we'll follow up again and let you know how
Keep you
that
updated.
worked, and hopefully Norwegian will provide better guidance. I mean, if we found this out like 3 months ago, it wouldn't be as big
Not
a
a problem.
deal.
We could figure something,
But it's
get
so
it
close
arranged.
to the cruise. I think ours is the second one that this will be true of, and maybe the first one. So at least for on the Epic, and it should affect, we believe, all the international cruises.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, because at one point in time, Norwegian was telling us that we were the only ship that was affected by it on the Epic, which was really, really, really strange. And, you know, that was really hard for us to kind of fathom that was actually the case.
Yeah, my thought is,
But
what
I don't know.
What really is going on is they were anticipating that requirement was going to go away, and they planned to not have this expense anymore, and it hasn't gone away yet. So they're pushing it down on their passengers, which is going to make a lot of unhappy passengers. I'm sure a lot of people who read that email probably said, oh, they're just reminding me about testing before you come.
Right.
But that was not what that email was about.
No, because we already knew that what we were going to do was we were going to go to CVS and we were going to get our test beforehand. Like, we already have all of that thought about, but this was kind of something unexpected. But I always kind of keep in my mind that anything worth doing is worth working for. And sometimes it's got a little bit of a pathway to get to have the experience and the fun and the things that you want. And I think we're kind of at that stage in this trip where it feels like a lot is going on in order to get us over there. But on the running side of things, this is why you run, people.
It's a good stress relief.
It is a good stress relief for everybody that you know, has to go through things like this before they get to travel. It's definitely something to do, just in general for sanity. But we'll keep you updated.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people at the pond tonight, and lots of neighbors out. Hello. But we'll come back to you with a little bit more information.
We'll fill in some details.
Yes, we'll fill in lots of details as they come to us. But like I said, we're excited. It's coming up, and
I wanted to keep you abreast of the situation.
yes, and to all those teachers out there, I'm not sure when this is all going to go live on YouTube or anything, but guys, we made it through a year. We did it, and congratulations to all the teachers that got through. And you know, just have a good summer. Take some time for you, rest and recharge. All right,
Bye, everybody.
we'll see you next time whenever we come to you with a little bit more information, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.